Today we're going to do a demonstration of the ThermoTraks installation.
You will receive in your package two components, the track and the seal. You will also get the hardware needed to install and instructions.
Before you get started with your ThermoTraks installation, you're going to want to make sure that you have all of your tools ready. So here we have our step ladder, we have our socket set, locking pliers, a flat bar, a hammer. You can use a utility knife or scissors and a pen or marker.
Some screwdrivers, tape measure, not a bad idea to get some safety glasses, a cordless drill, and a hacksaw.
Now with your garage door fully open, in order to eliminate any movement of the garage door while you're working on your new tracks, you want to make sure to use your locking pliers right next to the wheel. So put these right here.
And if you have an electric garage door opener, you are going to want to unplug the power cord and also pull down on the emergency release. The next step is we're going to be removing the jam stop from around the door. You're going to need a crowbar, and you're going to start with removing the sides from the bottom to the top. Do both sides, and then you'll take the top off. After you remove your jam stop from around the door, you're going to want to clean it with a little soap and water and follow that with some rubbing alcohol. This will help the ThermoTraks seal stick well to the door frame.
So the next thing that you want to do if you have an automatic garage door opener is you want to measure where the sensors are so that you can replace them on the new track once that's installed. And so what we'll do is we'll measure from the ground to the top of the bracket, which is 8.5 inches here. Write that down, remove your bracket, and just set that aside, and then you'll do the same thing on the other side. Now before you remove your tracks, you're going to want to make sure that you measure where your track is relative to your bracket. So we'll look here, and this is at 2.5, and then you want to add 3/8 of an inch to it as well. So this would be 2 7/8.
You're going to want to write that down so you remember for later. All right, now we are going to remove the existing vertical tracks from your door. You can use your sockets, or if you have an impact drill, I'm going to go ahead and remove. And only on the vertical section.
And then we'll repeat this on the other side. Now it's time to install ThermoTraks.
Yeah!
So you're going to want to make sure that you don't put the tracks on backwards. So look for that up arrow and make sure that your profiles match here to make sure that it's not going on wrong. Then you're going to want to take all of your bolts and finger tighten them on. Once you finger tighten those on, make sure that you're 2 7/8, if you remember that measurement from last time. Make sure that you're 2 7/8 inches away from the wall. Now that we've got all of the track bolts in finger tight, we're going to go ahead and measure and make sure that we're at that 2 7/8 away from the wall, and then we can tighten that
spot.
So now we've tightened all of the hardware on the tracks, and you want to carefully hold up your door a little bit, remove your locking clamp, and then carefully lower your door. So now by applying some inward pressure, we're going to make some micro adjustments.
As you can see, you're going to want to have about 1/8 of an inch gap all the way down from top to bottom. We're about right at the top, but as you can see, we're going to have to adjust the bottom to get that a little closer together. How you do that is by loosening up these bolts and you're going to adjust that way. Take that. So you get to about that 1/8 of an inch. And then retighten your bolts. If the top of your door is pushing against the jamb, you may need to do some adjusting to the top guide wheel. To do this, you just loosen the bolt on top, push it towards the door until you reach that 1/8 of an inch.
Now we're going to start measuring for the ThermoTraks seal. So the first thing you need to do is measure your header and then measure both sides. We're going to go here, right up to that corner, all the way across, and we're at 107 inches. And 83 1/2.
After you measure around the door, you're going to cut your seal to those measurements.
When you get your ThermoTraks track and seal system, you're going to get a little bit of extra seal. So a little tip is to clip off some of that excess. Take that, and to remove some of the slot from the door, you're going to press it nice and tight here and mark, and you're going to use this as a template all the way along. So now we'll slide this down, press against the door, and mark again. And just do that all the way around the jamb.
We already installed the top seal. Now we're going to come around down the side. We have our markings from when you went around and marked the door. You're going to peel a little bit of that tape off and press it up tightly and follow your line down the door. It's not a bad idea to add a little nail once you get that top stuck, just to ensure a little
Nice and secure. So now that we've installed the ThermoTraks seal, we're going to work on the jamb stop. If you remember, our measurements for the seal was 107 1/8 inches, and so we're going to measure that, and then we'll use our miter saw to cut it. Do 107 1/8, and we'll cut it. Now that we have the jamb stop cut to size, we're going to go ahead and pre-drill some holes about 5 inches apart, just to make the install a little bit easier. Now to make the install even easier for the jamb stop, we're going to go ahead and preset the nails so that when we go and put it up against the door jamb, it's nice and simple to tap in. Just enough to keep them stuck there. So we've already installed the top of the jamb stop, and now what we're going to do is run all the way along the sides. You want to make sure when you're installing this that first, for the sides, you're flush with the top, and then on the rest of the way down, you want to make sure that your jamb stop is pressed against the seal, so that you have a nice tight seal here. Now we'll just keep pushing these all in. Work your way all the way down. Now that we've got the tracks installed, we've got the jamb stop in, we need to do a couple of manual runs of the garage door to make sure that there's no binding. You can make some micro adjustments as needed, but if it runs fine, then you can go ahead and leave it and we'll move on to the next step. Now that you have your jamb stop installed, the seal is installed, you want to do a couple of final steps. So first and foremost, if you have an automatic garage door opener, you're going to want to make sure that your eyes are lined up. And a lot of times you'll see that there's a green light on the outside that indicates whether or not they are lined up, and ours are lined up. If you remember we were at 8 inches and 8.5 inches over here. So you got those all set up. You want to make sure that your garage door is actually attached to the opener, so you'll just press up until you hear a click. Ready? So that's locked in, and then we'll finally plug in the power and see if this works. There we go, ready to go.